Coming up on this episode of Courage Over Comfort with your hosts, Matt Logan and Beth Blanchard.
The whole coaching piece of what I was doing in that time that I was away from Mayo, the hardest part was to get a dad to admit that they might need some help.
Yeah.
Once they started getting it, once I was working with them, they're like, why didn't I do this years ago?
Yeah.
It hit me that I need to do something to be the dad that I wanted to be. And so, like I said, my wife said, why don't you write a book? I'm like, no way, I'm not going to write a book. Like, how can I do that? So I actually wrote my first book while I was working 50 hours a week.
Ooh.
Plus all these other things and getting to my kids' stuff. I was very intentional about my time, very focused. And I actually wrote the book in 9 months.
That was an incredible conversation we just had.
I feel so enlightened and inspired, and I just am amazed by his whole approach to parenting.
For sure. And as a dad, I learned a lot from him today, and I'm excited. He's going to talk about that later into the podcast, about the event we have on March 5th.
Yes.
And all those things that tie into that. But some free things that he's going to give away at this event and stuff too.
Yep.
The thing that I took really from it as well is when he said that it's never too late to start as a dad.
Right.
And I'm thinking like, okay, my youngest is 20 and things like that. It's like, okay, I can start.
Yeah.
Right.
Here we go.
Like I can still start,
But it's great not just, to put that out there as a tool for dads, but also as a reminder for moms too. There's just more than one way to connect with your kids.
Absolutely. And that's a dad's perspective, but that definitely can help other moms and stuff too through what his
100%.
thoughts. Yeah. So, hey, hope that people enjoy the podcast as much as I did.
Yeah. Grab a pencil.
Absolutely. And everybody help me welcome Mark LaMaster. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, it's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming here. So excited to have this conversation today. I just got introduced the other day, so I've had a very small amount of time to dig in, but these books, I think, have some tremendous value that we can talk about today. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And Mark and I go back a little ways.
Yeah.
Now, you probably don't know this, but you're a formidable man, right? You've got big, broad shoulders, and that formidable face of yours, and you're intimidating.
Oh my.
And I met you, and I'm thinking, this guy invited me in to speak at an event, and I was like, oh boy, I'm gonna have to impress this guy, or he's gonna, I'm done, right? And I hope I didn't impress you, but I did my best. And yeah,
you nailed it, man. We were so excited to have you. So
thanks. That's not what I was looking for, but I was like intimidated. I didn't know who you were, and then I met you, and I'm like, wow, this guy asked me to speak at his event.
Oh my.
So that was a good time. I learned a lot through that, and thanks a lot for that opportunity and things. But Courage Over Comfort is what we're kind of talking about, and you are in a pretty high level position. I don't know if you want to talk about that position, but your courage is like, hey, I need to do this. And you just said, here we go.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here to talk today.
So, one of the things that I always wanted to be when I was in my younger years was
don't
to be
say grow up.
Yeah. I'm
don't
not
say
gonna
grow up.
Do we ever?
Because we're right. Yeah. We better not grow up.
So one of the things that I really wanted to be when I was deciding to be a dad was to be the best that I could be.
Nice.
And I didn't really know what I was doing. I don't think any dad really knows what they're doing.
Right.
Absolutely not.
And I was fortunate to have a loving dad that was home, that made career choices to be home. He was a speech language therapist, and so he was off when I was off.
Yeah.
He picked up some extra jobs. He was involved. He showed up at all my games, all my practice, or not my practice, but all my events.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate because what I've learned over time is that that's not the case for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
And but at the same time, I still wanted to be a better dad.
Yeah.
And I realized that I wasn't being that. I was putting my career first. I was putting my interests first, and I wasn't being that person. And it took me to my son's around his 8th birthday to really figure that out.
Yeah.
And so
now, you said games, so I saw squirrel, right? Yeah. What did you play?
Games?
Yeah, like football, man. I'm assuming.
I played pretty much every single sport.
Yeah.
I played I played baseball.
Okay.
That was one of my favorites. I played basketball. I tried soccer. I wasn't very good at soccer.
See, I played soccer to get in shape for basketball. Right?
Okay.
Like that was my soccer.
And then one of the things that I got to do by chance was I got to run cross country, and ended up, I was never really good, but I was one of the better ones on our team. And so I developed a love for running. I don't
That's
run
awesome.
now. Can probably tell, but my daughter does, and so does my son.
That's
and
great.
so it's been fun to see
like
how
in cross country.
yeah, they run
cool.
cross country. So anyway, those are the kind of things that I was involved with. And you talk about games, and you know, my first book was based on games. Was based on game day, and my son and I love to go to football games.
Cornhuskers.
Yes,
You know, we had breakfast. I think we talked about that. Yeah.
So my parents both grew up in Omaha.
Okay.
And my parents both went to the University of Nebraska during the time that Johnny Rodgers, if any of your listeners remember him, he's a Heisman Trophy winner. And so they won national championships from there. So I was just born a Husker.
Yeah.
And so that's...
Didn't get a choice at all.
No, I didn't get a choice.
Right,
and
yeah.
I'm from Iowa, so
Yeah.
I should be a
is that
Hawkeye
right?
fan, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not really a big Hawkeye fan, sorry. But anyway, so that's really where when my son turned 8, it was kind of that time where I was doing well in my career, but not doing well as a dad. And it just hit me.
Was
And
there
I
like
just-
an event that hit you, or what hit you?
Well, yeah, there was an event, but just kind of leading up to that, I kind of had this thing where I'm not being the dad that I want to be. And I think every dad goes through that, whether they want to admit it or not.
Yeah, yeah. I'll admit it.
And
I still go through it.
yeah.
And my
Every
youngest,
parent, I think, goes through that.
right.
Exactly, every parent. And that's
My
the
youngest
thing.
is 20, and I still go through that. Like, right?
Yeah.
It's
Like what am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Like, show me what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And so I just struggled with that. And so I had been getting these ideas. Okay, maybe I should, maybe what I should do is think of some ideas that my son and I can do together, because I didn't know what to do. You know, go to a game. We'd go to a game. We'd spend 3 hours in the car each way, and all we would talk about is football.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him the questions that were so easy to ask,
Yeah.
but I
Right.
didn't know what to ask him. So, what are you afraid of? What do you like? What are you passionate about? I mean, this kid's 8. My
Yeah.
son's
Yeah.
8, but at the same time, I just didn't know him.
It's intentionality, though, behind that.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I thought of was I started writing down some ideas, and my wife said, "You should just write a book." So here I am working, 50 hours a week at my job and at home while I'm doing these things. It wasn't too far removed from the time that we originally met that I was this formidable guy that was asking you to do this.
Right. No, I remember like when I can't remember how I heard about it, but I think probably social media or something.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I mean, you were a pretty big deal in your position, and
Yeah.
and had a good thing going, and obviously a lifelong career.
Were you the mayor or something? What did you do?
No, I was working. I was working as a nursing education specialist. I worked
Okay.
for the flight team. I also worked in surgical services. So I've done a bunch of different things. And then when all this started
See, he's
happening,
intimidating, isn't he?
Yeah. When all this stuff happened, I actually stepped away from that.
Wow.
So I
That's
actually
huge.
had several years, almost 2 decades at Mayo Clinic, and stepped away. And so people thought I was, "Why are you doing
Crazy.
that? You're losing your pension. If you just stay 13 more years, you could have all these." I'm like, but my kids will be
Yeah.
gone, married, and everything else at that time, and I really wanted to focus on helping dads.
Wow. What a
Yeah.
huge
I love
change.
And so I've since gone back, but I had almost 2 years of taking my kids to school, of helping them intentionally with their homework instead of, oh, let's just skim through this. Just going to their events that I wasn't able to go to before, just really getting to know my kids and seeing them in the mornings, because I never saw them in the morning because I was always at work at 6:30
Yeah.
or 7. So somewhere in that time. But it was a gift. It was a tough decision. And a lot of people say, do you regret it? Because I've gone back now. I'm like, no, because I can't just take that, 730 or 740 days back. I
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah,
I
right.
can't get that back.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, I might not have all this other stuff on the other end, this security blanket or whatever people have. But we've done different things with our investing that we're okay. We're not going to worry about that because we trust in God that God's going to provide for us.
Yeah.
And so it was a leadership position, but at the same time, it was right for me. It was right for my family, and it was right for my kids. And so that was the easy answer.
Yeah.
And so I got to do some really cool things during that almost 2 years that I was gone.
What a huge opportunity and blessing to have, like, some of that time back. I mean, just to get some clarity, if nothing else, you know, about what that relationship with your kids looks like.
You know, you hear about professors taking sabbaticals, like for a year, or different companies letting you go somewhere for a year.
Like, isn't it required?
I feel like everyone should have that opportunity. Like, everyone needs a little, like, checkout for a little bit.
And I think the most I would ever have been able to get before would have been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just not
What
enough
are you
time
doing?
to really, it's by the time you start getting comfortable, then it's, you're kind of right back in the thing. And then you got to make up for the time that you were gone and all this stuff. So, but it was really cool. So that time was precious to me, and I got to really understand I got to focus on what I wanted to do with dads. And I got to be a dad that I couldn't have been before. So it really was a reset button for me.
Yes.
And I was fortunate to be able to do that financially. But anyway, that's kind of where it hit me that I need to do something to be the dad that I wanted to be. And so, like I said, my wife said, why don't you write a book? And I'm like, no way, I'm not going to write a book. Like, how can I do that? So I actually wrote my first book while I was working 50 hours a week.
Ooh.
Plus all these other things and getting to my kids' stuff. I was very intentional about my time, very focused. And I actually wrote the book in 9 months.
Wow.
Which my goal was 1 year.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
And so it was, I think God bends time for something that is, that he wants out there.
Yeah. That's a great point.
That was one of the things where I felt even closer to God, because I knew that he was helping me do this.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't have done it on
Yeah.
my own.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now a quick word from our sponsors.
Maple Springs Campground is sponsoring today's show.
Love this place.
Isn't that great?
Christmas in July they're talking about, but what about like actual July and Christmas? That's what we need to figure out.
Yeah. Can we do that?
All year round they have stuff going on, right?
Yeah, there's an event coming up, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but a campground in Minnesota. It's a summer thing, and they have an event in January.
Why wouldn't you?
Isn't that great? They're
That's
creating
fantastic.
a community.
I love that.
Yeah. And so they also, what's unique about them is they have this place in the campground for horse people. And like they're like a whole people, right?
They are.
My
They have
mom's
their
one
own
of those
group.
people. She's actually camped down there with her horse. Wow. So they have this area set
they
up
have
where you can
sleeping
have
bags?
horses. That's a good question. I'll have to ask. I'll get back to you on that.
We'll have to look.
Right. But what they do, they have great hiking and fishing, actually trout fishing, like it's known trout fishing down there.
Love trout.
And Maple Springs Campground has Sunday worship services from, what's that big holiday, Memorial?
Yes.
From there all the way to Labor Day, all summer.
You don't even need to leave.
You don't need to leave.
It's
There's a great
fantastic.
store there. They
Everything
have
you need.
tenting. They have full RV hookups
Love that.
and seasonal. Like you
totally
can
would be
park
the
your
RV
RV.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Someone was just telling me what they did this summer about tenting, and I'm like, I like running water in a shower.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the RV myself.
Yeah. But if you don't have an RV,
Yeah.
they have showers free.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
So you
Wi-Fi.
don't smell.
So if
you
you
get your church.
Yeah.
You have a lot of fun. I mean, volleyball, the dog park. Like, you never need to leave.
Exactly.
Love this
And
place.
there's this little playground. I've possibly played.
You're the reason they have signs.
They have signs because of me. Absolutely. But it's like some of the people that are there, the seasonals, they talk about the ponies that are there. There's two cute
so
little
cool.
ponies. Like they're starting a petting zoo or something, I swear. I don't know.
It
Not
sounds
really,
like it.
but
We got
it's
dogs,
really cool.
horses, ponies. What else could you possibly need?
Well, trout fishing, like I had mentioned before, there's a lot of people that go down there for that. So you need to eat.
This is true.
So
I could go down there, set up shop, and just meet the people that have the dogs and the
Yep.
trout. And Then
maybe even borrow a horse for an afternoon.
I don't know. It sounds like a fun idea, though.
Maple Springs Campground. Look them up.
Yeah, let's get booked already for summer.
Give them the website.
What do you got? We got maplespringscampground.com. That's maplespringscampground.com. You can call them if you're one of those type, 507-951-8876. That's 507-951-8876.
And again, thank you, Maple Springs Campground, for believing in what we do.
We love it. Can't wait to be there.
Sandberg Law Office is sponsoring today's show.
They are awesome.
Yeah.
Dependable, personable.
Yeah,
reliable.
And dedicated.
Yes.
Like they're super dedicated to their people. And I've unfortunately had some personal experience with their law office. And it's just the way they work with you is pretty incredible. Their integrity is amazing. And it's just they're really trustworthy. I love working with them. I don't try to work with them, but this is the real world.
Hey, if you got to stand in those scary courtrooms, I want some people behind me that I can trust to get the job done.
Absolutely.
For sure.
You know, their record for their outstanding record for and reputation that they have for this area, I've had to ask around. Like, you don't want to go into a law office not kind of knowing a little bit about what's going on, right? Like, do they know what they're doing? Do they have a good reputation? Yes. Are they committed to their people and things like that, which I'm their people. So.
A lot of us are their people, even when we don't want to be, but integrity is huge.
Yeah.
You don't want some sleazeball representing you. You want to have someone you can trust.
Right.
These are those kind of people. These are your people.
They're my people.
Right?
Absolutely. And their services include personal injury. They have workers' comp services, employment law, and wrongful death.
They can cover a lot. And those are a lot of places that you need good people behind you.
Absolutely. And not only that, they treated me with respect. Me, of all people, right? With respect.
Gosh, they are a winning team, for
they
sure.
Are for sure a winning team. Give them their website.
All you have to do is head over to their website, www.sandberglawoffice.com. Go over there, sandberglawoffice.com, or give them a call. They like to talk to people, too. It's 507-282-3521. Any questions that come up, you just give them a call. They'll help you out, right? 507-282-3521. Thank you, Sandberg.
Thank you, Sandberg Law Office.
And now, back to the episode.
You know, the resources, I think you talk about it a little bit too. They just didn't really exist a whole lot pre 2005.
Right.
And some of the studies that you had done and looked at and how society has basically said, you know what, dads weren't important, and how that shift has happened. Talk about that a little bit. How, as a society, I mean, as a whole, I absolutely agree with that. Society said, hey, dads aren't really that important. Breadwinners, whatever else, and not even in the home in a lot of cases, obviously. But now society, and I don't mean from a religious perspective or any perspective, which was very impressive to me, that actually these professors and these people that have studied it had swung that and said, wait a minute, no, we got it wrong. Dads are pretty important here.
Yeah, there's been probably, and I'm not going to be able to give you the exact statistics, but over the last decade, there's been more research on fatherhood than the previous 100 years.
Wow.
I mean, it's been something that, it's something that's just taken off.
Yeah.
And I think what's driven it, and I don't know if this is absolutely correct or not, but I think marketing has driven that because the marketers are saying, hey, you know what? If dads are important, then maybe we should be marketing to them. So there was a Pampers commercial several years ago that basically said dads don't know how to change diapers. And that just blew up in their face. And so over the last probably about a decade, maybe 6 or 7 years, you've started seeing some commercials that really involve the dad. Yeah. And they're doing well with them. So, maybe this is something we missed out on. We're losing this huge market. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, the marketing has driven that, but it doesn't matter who's driving it. This research, I think it's just that dads are now showing that, we matter. Yeah. And there's scientific research, peer-reviewed articles that talk about an involved dad increases cognitive behavior, or cognition, behavior, reduced sex before marriage, reduced pregnancies, reduced are increasing in cognition, and they're actually getting better grades because of an involved dad. And there's a list that goes on and on. I just read a book called The Boy Crisis, and it talks about there's 75 different things that having an involved dad improves.
Wow.
Because dad's involved. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, we know you mentioned
That's
the
amazing.
grades are getting better. I mean, if dads are at all like me, it's not because I was helping them with their homework.
Yeah.
I was no good at that.
Yeah.
But that's amazing that just even the involvement,
Right.
that improves those things.
And there's other groups out there that are helping. There's something called the Dad 2.0 Summit that works with these different companies and says, hey, dads are important. Let's get some funding here and do this. The At-Home Dad Network, the National At-Home Dad Network, is starting to make a movement because there's a lot more stay-at-home dads now than there ever has been. And so what was once supposed to be the mom just staying home. So it's just really cool to see this shift. I think a lot of TV shows, there was the dumb dad character, like Homer Simpson is the epitome of that. Like,
Sure.
Yeah, right.
Just
right.
these, like, Dad's the Idiot, the fun jokester. If you look at the top 10 books on Amazon right now, 2 or 3 of them are probably going to be dad joke books.
Really?
So that's partly, that frustrates me,
Yeah.
that there's not books like How to Be a Better Dad
Yeah.
that are up there, but it's the dad joke, the dad bod, all these different things that kind of are still...
Do you think it's because dads weren't like looking for that? Like they weren't like recognizing the need to improve or had the desire maybe to improve?
That is awesome, because what you're saying is, I think dads, what I've learned over the past 5 years is dads don't want to admit that they're not good at something.
Sure.
Just men
For
in
sure,
general.
absolutely.
Like, I'm an awesome dad.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to get to a place like that. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I suck.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah,
I need to learn here.
But you don't necessarily want to admit that in public.
Sure.
I just did.
Yeah, you did it.
For
did it.
everyone.
You did it, for everyone to know.
But it took, and I think that's what I'm saying there is that I think that is exactly the way society had programmed us.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't get it wrong. We couldn't ask for help and all those other things. And, it took really, frankly, the death of my daughter to get to that place. I'm like, you know what? This just doesn't matter. Those feelings and the way society has programmed us to not ask for help and not do those things, that's gone now.
Yeah.
And to the whole coaching piece of what I was doing in that time that I was away from Mayo, the hardest part was to get a dad to admit that they might need some help.
Yeah.
Once they started getting it, once I was working with them, they're like, why didn't I do this years ago?
Yeah.
You
What
know,
a hurdle.
Why do I need help with being a dad? I'm like, I'm bringing home the paycheck. I'm going to all their games. You can be this involved, this quasi involved dad because you just show up at games.
Sure. Like
But-
physically present.
Yeah. But then a lot of times that car ride home, why didn't you tackle that guy? Or
Yeah,
why
yeah.
weren't you more aggressive? So a lot of these boys, even and girls in these sports, they're coming home like they're not good, and their dads are just riding them,
Yeah.
because of whatever it might be, they didn't perform well enough. So
Yeah.
there's so many different things that I think dads just are trying to get through to say, okay, I need some help as a dad. And then at the time, there's not a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah. There's not stuff like to do, in that like traditional sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's mommy and me, everything.
Exactly. And I think that's a frustrating part. So I think a lot of people, especially in the church world, know of this program called MOPS. It's called Mothers of Preschoolers. It's an international company,
Right.
Not company, but a program that's been started by like a group of 5 or 6 gals in the 70s, I think.
Yeah.
And they have written the book on how to get moms together. They bring
Yeah.
in speakers, they have mentor moms, they have
Yeah.
all these different things. So they're using the resources they have, and it's blossomed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well, and it's a really unique, like niche. Because for me, like I've always been a working parent, and I'm like, cool, MOPS is great because nobody works, so that works for them. But what about the moms that are trying to hold it all together and suffering? But same way with dads, that's a whole new niche where
Right.
you just need to have groups that apply to that type of life, whatever it may be. I wish there was more things like that for
the
other
thing
people.
about that you say about the working mom, it's true. My wife had to once she started going back to a higher, FTE or, a higher amount of hours per week, she had to drop going to MOPS simply because of that.
Yeah.
And the evening one, it's sports. And that's the same thing, I think, with one of the hurdles, like you said, for dads, is that how do you get dads together to talk about dad stuff? It's on an evening when they want to go to their kids' events. So you try and find these like 9:00 on a Sunday night or 8:00 men's coffees on Saturday mornings. They're maybe 10% of the church attendance. The guys in the church will go, and they just sit there and they talk about sports. They don't have this thing. There's a lot of men's ministries out there.
Yeah.
But if you look at women's ministries, there's always a mom component.
Yeah.
But men's ministries, there's never a dad component. So
yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that.
It's
that's
always
very
just
true.
clumped into this men's ministry where let's go build something or let's go do something, which is how men bond, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But there's not something that says, hey, here's a grandpa that can help teach us the lessons to these new dads or experienced dads and brand new dads or guys that want to become dads. There's not like this mentor mentality at all.
That's a good point. Well, and even the activity portion, like we talked about with the mom and me thing, like I remember, so I was raised by a single dad, and, he had to do like the prom dress shopping, and that's, super uncomfortable stuff. But, we struggled sometimes, like, okay, what should we do together? Like a movie or, whatever. And you had to find something that was, in the group, but there wasn't traditionally something out there. And I still don't think there's a lot out there. It's just more like Mom and Me has been dropped as a name, and it's like parent and kid, but it's still uncomfortable, I think, for like men to say, okay, let's go to Color Me Mine, or you know what I'm saying? Like all the traditional activities are just not quite maybe as comfortable for them to do.
Right. When you said that, it made me think of this dad that has made this. He's like a YouTube star now because he can do his daughter's hair, and he's teaching other dads how to do their daughter's hair.
I've seen him. That's genius.
I think it's so cool. I try to put a braid in my daughter's hair, and it's just a joke. It like falls out, and she's like, "Oh, it looks pretty good, Dad."
Right.
But yeah.
But there clearly was a niche. There's a lot of single dads out there that, even, I don't want to say part-time dads in Detroit, but when you're split custody, you're still on your own trying to figure that out. And clearly a lot of dads needed help with braids, that's genius. But it's one way of really promoting inclusion for a group, but also promoting that relationship with them, because that's something really important to a daughter, to like have their dad invest time to learn to braid.
Yeah,
and that is the one thing with like the age that we live in computers and social media and whatnot. There's actually a lot of really brilliant avenues that we can use in a positive way.
Yeah,
and, I learn a lot of things from YouTube and things like that too, and just all kinds of different ways and methods and things like that. So I think that it's good that there's a focus on some of those positive things like that, because we always see the negative and things like that.
Well, and it's simple. That's the thing that's so cool about it is, a lot of times with, I know on the mom side with books, they're like, these huge leaps of like major changes and all. You're really just sit down and learn how to do a braid. Like that's a huge improvement, I
think you should start a video, maybe a TikTok braid thing.
Maybe. Yeah. See if my daughter can help me with that.
But that's on TikTok. Speaking of that, is the new like dad dance off thing. Like that's the new thing on TikTok. I don't know if your daughter's on that, but mine is obsessed. And these dads that come out. So, I mean, not only do you have to like, one, be open to like putting yourself out there for all of TikTok world to judge, but then you take time to learn the dance. Your daughter's teaching you the dance. And then, of course, hopefully she's doing the video because it's very complicated on TikTok.
Yes.
But I mean, I love to see those types of things, like very simple. You took 20, 30 minutes out of your day, to really engage and share something with them.
And I like what you're talking about with this simple because, we talk about all these things that dads aren't doing or the resources that aren't there for dads. But
there's not. Wasn't.
Yeah.
When I was.
And what I want to give dads is that I think dads just get overwhelmed. Like, I don't know where to start. So something like a 20-minute or 30-minute TikTok dance.
Yeah.
Or let's go out and have a hot cocoa or a coffee. Depending on age, some girls are drinking coffee at 10, whatever. I don't know. My daughter wants to go out for cocoa or she wants to go out for a tea or something. But it doesn't have to be this huge life change. It has to be start somewhere.
Right.
And it's never too late to start. And it's not this overwhelming thing. One of the things I write about in The Dad Drift is I talk about these 7 different obstacles, stumbling blocks, and I use the metaphor of the 7 C's. And there's 7 of them. Oh, they affect all of me. I'm struggling with all of them. And at the end of the book, I say, choose your nost. Navigate 1 C today, because you have to start with one thing.
That.
And it's all these other things might come together over time, but it's not this overwhelming feeling that I have to do all these things at once.
Yeah.
If you just say, I want to spend an hour with my son in the next 2 weeks, just one-on-one time, put something on the calendar, make it happen. It's not this, I have to change my job. It's, I have to change everything. I have to quit my job or resign from my position. Right. It's not that drastic. It's just something that's simple and taking action and just doing something. Guys like to take action. So
that's absolutely
just one little thing.
And time matters. I mean, that's a resource that you cannot get back. You cannot make more of, that sort of thing. Like an hour, of your time. We used to do like dates. So like once a month we would have it on the calendar to go out to eat and whatever, and try to let things flow. But just having that time commitment, said, okay, like that's important to him. That's important to me. That's an open conversation, if something happens, or not, whatever. But I think the simple times, like one thing at a time, like go sit down in their bedroom for 10 minutes. Or, say, hey, do you need help with this? Or, you want to do this together, go for a walk. All those things that are simple, like that don't cost money, that, aren't, to your point, changing a job. But think about 10, 15-minute things that you can do. Like
one of the things that I really love having your perspective especially from the single dad. Growing up with a single dad, that's a unique perspective. And it's just valuable, because one of the things that I've noticed with my daughter, who's now 16, is that we're starting to bump heads a lot more. We probably have very similar personalities, which is not a bad thing, but everything that I've read and everything that I've talked about other people is that daughters want their dads in their lives. Even though you feel like they're pushing you away, the dad has to just say, okay, I get that, but I know she wants me around. She wants me to set boundaries. She wants me to set time limits of when she's supposed to be home. She wants me to do all these things because she needs those boundaries and those rules.
She doesn't know that right now at 16, just to be clear.
But exactly. But so when she pushes away, I need to re-engage. And that's been hard for me over the last even 3 months that I'm struggling with a little bit with my daughter, because we're kind of just bumping heads. She's starting to, the world is starting just to revolve more and more around her because she's busy with her certain things. So, but would you agree that dads, you wanted your dad to be a part of your life, even though sometimes you're like, no, Dad.
Totally. I mean, like, there was both a security and dependency in that, but it also taught you, how, in my case, one of the things we laugh about now is negotiation. And like, I would do a PowerPoint presentation for my dad. My dad was in, marketing and software engineering. And so I would put together a PowerPoint about why my curfew should be extended. And,
nice.
So I would present this to him, and we would have this conversation and, negotiation or whatever. And like, what do I do now? Like, that is my job now, is to present things like that. And, that was our own like bonding time. That was our own way of, setting up our conversations to be civil, to kind of express what you want and or need, and sort of try to get that balance.
I haven't heard that one yet, but I really like it.
I don't know if kids do PowerPoints anymore these days, but I mean, it really set it did. It set the stage for me in how I, negotiate and look at, different authority and leadership type things. I can present my point rather than like, Dad, you suck. It was, a very intentional process that we went through. You just said it
in a different way.
Dad,
you suck in a different way, right?
Like the eye roll.
Come on,
and,
right. Let's talk about that bumping head thing, right? obviously writing the book, you had to do a lot of research on things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What's your philosophy on bumping heads? I mean, talk about the boundaries and stuff like that. I'll just say, I think that what I've seen so much of is bumping heads is like, okay, I'm going to back off, you know, and not bump heads. I'm going to continue to be a friend to my kids, or especially girls are much different than guys.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to talk about what you think there?
I think just in the research is that, and from my experience, it's that, you know, our kids are that's what they're doing to start forming their independence.
Yeah.
Right. So they're in the negotiation, they're bumping the heads, they're challenging us, and that's a good thing. So, the majority of the time, I think it's right to, have, you know, bump heads and then discuss it, set it up, and then kind of back off a little bit, and then give it some time, even overnight.
Before re-engaging.
Yeah. Then say, you know what, if you were in the wrong, then apologize as soon as you can. To say, hey, I messed up. I took this too far.
Yeah.
Because then you're teaching them how to apologize.
And as a guy too, as a dad, that's hard.
Agreed.
That's hard.
And I've had to do that, even though, like, my wife will say, you need to apologize. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it, because I'm like, and then I do it, and then it strengthens the bond between us, I think, and it shows her that it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah.
And then we'll discuss what are the next steps, because there's something not right here. But it doesn't have to be something that the dad always wins, because there might be something in a negotiation or something that you're just completely off on, because we can't always parent like our parents did.
We're not in the same world anymore. Yeah.
No.
And so
absolutely, which is good.
Yeah.
And bad.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of things, you know, it used to be kids go to school 8 to 4 and have activities, and then they're away from their friends. And now it's just this 24/7 social media. You can constantly stay connected with their friends, and they can't really get away, if you will.
Yeah. Kind of mentally unplug is what I heard you say there. Get away. I mean, we all need that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of that, you know, we'll have arguments. We're not yelling, but we're going back and forth, or there's the eye roll or the tone, or the sigh. So we start, you know, kind of going back and forth, and then I'm like, okay, because I've taken it too far several times, and so we just kind of learn where that is. But yeah, it's something that it's kind of an art form, I think.
Yeah,
but the research shows that we should get back in, apologize if we were in the wrong, and then kind of talk things over and, you know, but there has to be, we're still the parent. We're not the best friend. And sometimes you're going to see best friend parents. Yeah. And that's hard, because now, you know, I want to be friends with my kids, but I'm also, my role is to be the parent and to set boundaries and to set rules and expectations. Yeah. And that, I'm not saying not do any of that stuff, because if I'm right and there's something my wife and I agree on, a parenting thing, then we're going to do that. Right. And maybe she will be, you know, the door slam type thing, or not talk to me, give me the silent treatment. But, you know, definitely re-engage with them and say, here's why I gave, you know, that type of a consequence, or here's why we expect you to do this. So it's a challenge thing. It's kind of an ongoing thing, but don't just leave and not talk about it and pretend it never happened, because that's not showing, that's not teaching our kids anything. That's teaching
them how to deal with it incorrectly. Yes, I mean, one of the things that you would keep talking about is communication, that I'm hearing. And I think that's so important, because not only is it important for the relationship to be able to communicate well, but it is teaching them how to communicate, you know, how to not shut people out or not give up, or, you know, a lot of things that I've come across recently. And I remember sitting in my kitchen, and my son was like, one after another, question. I'm like, I don't know, you know, and all of a sudden he was like, looked at me just like paralyzed with like astonishment. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's asking because he's trying to figure this world out.
Yeah.
And I just shut that down. And that was just like a huge parenting moment for me where I'm like, everything I'm doing is teaching my kids how they're going to think and live their life.
Right.
You know, so that's so important to both keep the communication open, but keep that structure, because what you're doing is preparing them for the world,
right.
you know, beyond the best you can. And I think you talk a little bit about that in that book, but how do you, you know, cultivate, you know, the relationship, you know, from a Christian parenting perspective versus what a normal parenting in the world is? How does that differ, and how do you communicate that with your kids?
As far as, I think the Christian parenting perspective is really, you know, I want my overall role as a parent is to help do anything that I can do to help lead them to believe in Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And so the things that I do, I should be trying to follow his, you know, the Bible's advice and how to act and how to respond and how all those things. That's a huge challenge, mm-hmm. right? But, you know, can I get my kids involved in a youth group? Can I, you know, me going to church, that's a huge thing. On a lot of days, I don't want to go to church. Mm-hmm. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But I know that the research shows that if dad goes, more than likely my kids are going to end up going to church consistently.
Yeah.
If I go consistently. If mom goes, it's a very small percentage if she goes consistently. And sometimes that's not fair because of the situations that you're in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there is research that shows that dads, that role model, going to church, there's a huge transition rate from going to church from youth to adult.
Yeah.
So, you know, going to church, reading, doing devotions, reading the Bible, and just talking about that as a family. Mm-hmm. The eating dinner at the table is a huge thing because we talk, we pray, we do that. We don't do that every night. We have kids involved in sports, all those different things. So when we get the chance to do it, it's a treat.
Yeah.
But the other thing to do is, you know, I think social media has, you know, in secular world, if you will, has really hit as far as how that's affecting kids. And I think there's this whole mental health crisis.
Yeah, there's now proof of what that is. Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, I mean, I can even see it myself. If I look on Facebook and I see people on these amazing vacations, or they had this awesome Christmas, I call it Facebook fake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you know, people don't post, my basement's full of water up to my waist and I had to wade in to get that. Or
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I have no idea either. Or the bad things, you know, like you go on vacation. I read about it in this book. We went on this vacation that I planned. I had this romantic idea that it'd be this perfect Ely camping trip up in the Boundary Waters area. It was a nightmare. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't post that.
Yeah.
You know, cars in the ditch, tent messes up, almost crash a boat, glasses drop in the water.
Yeah.
We left 2 or 3 days early from a trip that we had planned out. So you don't post that stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, because
you think you should?
I do, because then it's real.
Right.
It is real. And you know, I just want to get your opinion. I don't think I've even said this to Beth yet, but I've been thinking about this the last few days. So I had over $600 worth of fuel stolen from my fuel tank out here. And I put, and I say that for this reason. I did post that, and I posted because I'm like, you don't mess with me anymore, right? Like, I put on there that I have a 30-30 and I'll shoot you in the toe. I'm that good of a shot. But the thing that I've been struggling with is, you know, that was a negative thing. Mm-hmm. You know, that was a negative happening, and I had the most shares that I have ever had, ever. And you know the work that I do.
Yeah.
And it blew it out of the water, Mark, like triple the shares that I've ever had in the last 7 years. And that's disturbing to me. Mm-hmm. The negative gets the most amount of shares. Mm-hmm. Now here's where you could go down that path. You could say, okay, well, they want people to know, and you know, someone's out stealing fuel or whatever else, and you could go down that path. Sure. I just don't buy it. It was negative. And I think people gravitate towards that.
So here's
what's
you had mentioned. Okay, let me just kind of back up just a second. So you talked about TikTok, and not sure if my daughter has it. My daughter has zero social media, and she's 16, and she's surviving.
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
Yeah. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Hey, can we send that note to my 12-year-old daughter?
So she has made the conscious decision not to do it.
Sure.
She has a nice phone that she basically texts on and takes pictures on, but she doesn't post anything because there's nothing that she has access to post to. Now, I know there's going to be people out there that say, well, she probably has a fake Instagram page or all this stuff. I know that she doesn't because I know her phone. I have access to it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've struggled with in what I do is I don't really like to post pictures of my family. In fact, I never have posted a picture of any of our vacations or anything. I just people are like, well, that's what you do. You should be posting about the things that you do. But that's me. That's what my family and I share.
Yeah.
So I may not be the best person to answer that question.
Yeah.
But I do have a Facebook page. I promote what I do on it, but I don't do a lot of personal stuff on it.
Sure.
I have one sister that doesn't have social media. She doesn't have a Facebook page, and she's in her 40s. And I have one sister that has a Facebook page, and she posts everything.
Yeah.
She's younger, so I think we're in that kind of generation Zennial, I think they call it, between Generation X and So, I think when we post, people want negative news.
They do, absolutely,
and that's what's exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that that everything that's positive that's posted is doing just as much damage as the negative.
Sure.
Because we compare ourselves.
Yeah.
So you take this Instagram picture and you get all done up or whatever you do, and it's like this airbrushed version of you.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's where these, I think, especially young girls, and it's starting with more with guys, the perfect six-pack kind of thing look.
Yep.
It's damaging them because we can never live up to that.
Yep.
And we shouldn't compare ourselves to that, but we just naturally do. And it makes us depressed.
Yeah. I think it's important to have, so you guys talk about positive and negative, and I'm going to say I'm going to disagree with both, because what I feel is the most important tool within social media is authenticity. And it doesn't come across with everyone, for sure. Have I posted the pretty pictures? Yes. Have I posted the, like, my kid just dumped 40,000 Legos all over? But that's my life, and that's how I'm connecting to other moms that are all just going at the same time when they see that, you know. And same thing with that parenting, enlightenment that I got. Like, I did a blog and posted about it that said, like, I yelled at my kid today more than once in a row. But
and the authenticity is absolutely key, and I agree with that 100%. But I think that what I'm really saying is my authenticity is to not talk about wading in the basement. That to me is just part of life.
Sure.
Right? You just do it. It's not like good, bad, or in between. It just happens.
Yeah.
Clean it up.
I get that.
Things like that. It took me a few days to post that about the fuel.
What was your intention with the post?
Well, I was upset, obviously. And things like that. I knew because of I had only had the fuel tank for like less than 3 weeks, so I knew that it was somebody that I know. So my intention is to say, hey, I know that we know each other, and I'm not going to tolerate it. I don't know who it was, but it's hidden away. You probably didn't see it coming in.
I wouldn't probably know what to look for.
You'd see it's a huge 500-gallon fuel tank, but it's hidden away.
Yeah.
And so you would have to actually physically have been here to know where it is.
Sure.
And so the intention was to say, hey, you're not going to just get away scot-free with this. It wasn't to be negative, but it wasn't to create shares or comments or anything like that. But it did. It exploded.
But do you think it was people though, like trying to help out, like, hey, this guy is looking for this to be known.
I wasn't looking for anybody. I didn't say I want to know who it was. I wanted to make a statement of fact of what had happened, and that I did plant some cameras and stuff now and things like that. And, nothing's been touched since, of course, and that's the intent. Obviously, is don't just stop. I mean, you have no right to that. You need help.
Yeah,
don't ask me for help.
Yeah,
I'll help you.
Yeah,
right. That was kind of the whole thing. In the post, I said, hey, do the right thing here. Go and give somebody $600. I need $600. I know they're not gonna, but that's the intent.
What I was gonna say is, as I'm just thinking about our conversation.
So, keep that thought.
Okay.
What I want to say about the authenticity is, in what you had said earlier, Be Like the Joneses came out way before social media. So I'll go toe to toe and fight with people on social media. I think it's a great thing, but it's a tool, just like a gun is a tool and an axe is a tool and Genghis Khan with a bow is a tool. You can use them for good things or bad things.
Yeah.
Period.
Agreed. Well, and I think too the experience and knowledge with those tools is just as important, and that's for sure when I think coming back with kids, especially.
It's the education.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing.
Give me an axe and you should run. But
yeah, and that's where I think we're talking about stuff as adults, right?
Yeah.
And we're giving that power to a 12-year-old
for sure,
and they don't know what to put on there or what not to put.
We
on
don't
there.
even know as adults because it's so new.
Yeah, and that's where I say, how do we parent now versus parents that didn't have to worry about the tablets or the iPads or all those or the iPhones. And so that's where I think, how do we help parents? We first have to help ourselves, right? What should we be putting on there and what should we be not putting on there? And you had mentioned, kind of looking at social media guardrails. And there was a point in time where I'm like, I'm never going to give my kid a cell phone.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They're going to have one.
Yeah.
It's a part of our life now. So how do we help them use that tool?
Yes.
Right.
How do we help set the boundaries? What is the right age to get a cell phone? That's like the number one question parenting coaches getting.
Everyone's going to have a different answer.
Everyone's going to have a different answer.
And quite frankly, each child is going to have a different answer too, because they're going to be at a different place at a different age.
Yeah.
My child had one when she was 9, but like an old school whatever, because she goes back and forth.
Yep.
And I didn't want there to ever be an opportunity where she needed something from me and could not reach me.
Yep.
But it wasn't a social media tool.
So there's just going to be a different answer
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah.
And it has to be a parental decision because you're going to be the one buying it for them more than likely.
It needs to be guarded just like anything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I kind of grew. I was like, oh, never. And to never have social media. My daughter will have social media at some point.
Yeah.
My son will probably have it at a younger age. He's just more connected that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many things that we have to figure out as parents before we can, our kids shouldn't do this. And there's not going to be right age. It's what the parents decide to do together. The single moms, the single dads, what is their decision? What are their things? Because, depending on where, I think that you need to have, it's so nice to be able to call somebody if you need a ride. If you get left after school or something like that.
Absolutely.
The safety piece of it.
Yeah.
But, and there are phones that still don't have social media on them.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing to me that they exist, what they do.
The flip phones. So anyway, I mean, it's a huge, we could probably just talk about social media the whole time in parenting.
Yeah, right.
Here's one thing we should go back though before. So you talked a little bit about, how the impact of an involved dad, translates overall. And this comes into play with social media in the fact that if we don't teach our daughters worth, then we're not setting them up for social media or anything else, in life, no matter what. So what, I think it comes back to is from the male perspective, from a daughter's perspective, having a dad that can help you determine what that worth and value is within yourself and making that the bigger deal rather than what you're wearing or what makeup you have, what picture you post or whatever. Those are really, really crucial steps, especially in that, teenage age, that's what they're looking for. If they can't get their dad's approval, I mean, that's like super stereotypical psychology, but it's true and it happens, right?
Yeah, and that's actually one of the main chapters in my one of the episodes in my book is about body confidence and image confidence, and there's a lot of shaming that goes on, and because they're looking at these things, and there's actually a video that I believe it was Dove that did it, that took a model, just normal looking, and did hours of makeup. Once they get done with the makeup, they put it into Photoshop and lengthened her cheekbones, just totally changed who she looked like. And she's now on they put this gal on a billboard and she looks like a model. Those are less than 1% of what people can look like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so these people they have some of the basic features that these modeling agencies like, and then they just do whatever they want to make them look. So they said that 100% of models are airbrushed and modified. Yeah. And so the fact that I showed that to my daughter, said, this is what happens.
Yeah.
And I want dads to show that to their daughters. And then the other thing that I do is I say, you were knit, go to the Bible and say you were knit together in your mother's womb.
Yeah.
And you were perfectly and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
You are you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change. Nobody else on the outside can tell you any differently. You were created exactly like you were supposed to be created. And you're perfectly made. And if they can have that foundation and then see what happens to these people on these models, what they go through to look like that, I think that's a good starting point.
Sure.
To tell them the foundation in the Bible, and then to show them some actual things that these people, then they can say, okay, I'm okay. You know, and tell them that you love them, that you look beautiful, that, you know, tell them that, say, you look so nice tonight. Or today.
Yeah, for sure.
It goes a long way, I think, for sure.
Absolutely. There's a lot of incredible insight that you have in these books and things. I'm just thinking, so we're going to do an event on March 5th.
Yeah.
Right? Would you be willing to come to that event and like maybe give out a few books and sign them and
absolutely
shake hands and kiss babies and stuff?
I would love to. I love getting out.
Did I say that right? I didn't say shake babies, right?
No, you
I don't think so.
I said it right.
You said it right. No, I'd love to. I think the more people that have this kind of information in their hands, it's just going to help serve parents out there. You know, these books, you know, one of the things about them is that I wrote them for dads, but I've had a lot of single moms use them.
Yeah, that's great.
Because they're just ideas.
Yeah.
And they're scripts. And so when I can get out and talk to people, like at an event like that you're talking about, I come alive because it just, it's so, I love talking to people about what I do and sharing that with them to help them.
That's so awesome.
It's going to be March 5th in the evening at Castle Community. And it's going to be upstairs in that, you know, loft area. Have you been up there?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's a cool event.
It is, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to do a live audience podcast. So we're going to sit down and do this, Beth and I, with a guest. And you know, hopefully we'll have a live audience, right? That's the idea.
Just
so
bring
cool.
your friends.
Right.
Everyone, bring a friend at least.
And it's free.
Yeah.
Right? There's no charge to it. We're just doing it. And it's to promote things like this, right? It's to promote good things. We're doing this to hopefully help people get out of their comfort zone, be a little bit more courageous and things like that, which obviously, boy, you are a prime example of that, you know, quitting a job like that. So I appreciate you. I appreciate our conversations and things like that. So I know that other people will as well.
Yeah. Thank you. That sounds like an awesome event. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for saying yes.
Yeah. I think this was an awesome conversation, and tools like this are so important. I think, you know, it was an absolute meant to be type of tool to put out there. And I appreciate you sharing your courageousness and not only just making that shift to do that, but to help people that are like, I'm good, I think, you know, just get past some of that fear and doubt and just learn to become a better parent that they want to be.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is an overall theme throughout all of my books and what I do is that I want dads to know that it's never too late
Mm-hmm.
to start being the dad that you dreamed you wanted to be.
Yeah.
And the first thing is just to start, to do one thing,
Yeah.
to put some time on the calendar and invite either your son or your daughter or both of them and say, hey, I just want to hang out with you on Thursday night. Let's go out for pizza and let's just talk.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this exquisite, well thought out, planned thing that costs hundreds of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Just start and talk to your kids, and it makes a huge impact on your kids.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so just start, and you can do it anytime. It's never too late.
I love that.
I have like probably a dozen more questions I'm just thinking of right now. Would you be willing to come back again one day and do another podcast? And
Absolutely.
I'll try and write those questions down. And
Yeah.
I think that there's so much more insight that we can't pack into this hour and stuff here. So
Absolutely, I'd be honored.
awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Awesome.
Appreciate you
Guys.
being here.
Hey, thank you guys
All
very
right.
much.
Thanks, Mark.
Great guy, isn't he? I mean,
He is.
Mark
It's
is awesome.
so encouraging and enlightening. I think he breaks it down so simply for all of us parents. I myself as a mom, I feel like walked away with a bunch of nuggets.
Yeah, you don't. It's a dad's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but you're absolutely right. A mom can totally learn from his wisdom and things.
Yeah.
I think, and it's incredible how generous he is. I was texting him yesterday, and I was like, the thought just popped in my head. I said, Mark, thanks for being so generous. You know, and what a guy.
Yeah.
And just kind of taking that dramatic like 180 turn in his career and things like that
Yeah.
to do what he's doing to help other people.
Right. I mean, that's a huge leap of faith. And really just because he had something pretty important to put out there.
He
and
did.
I'm so glad that he took the time to really break it down so simply.
Absolutely. I know I've learned from it. I've read one of his books, and that's the Friday Night Lights for Fathers and Sons.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote Friday Night Lights for Fathers and Daughters and The Dad Drift.
Yes.
And you talked about the 7 C's off camera with me a little
Yes,
bit.
he's got, it's a practical guide to help navigating just parenthood in general, but
Yeah.
specifically fatherhood. And he talks about this NOS, which is navigating one C at a time.
Yeah.
Huge impact for me just thinking one small step for whatever you're dealing with, you know, spending 10, 15 minutes with your kids, going down, hanging out in their bedroom, say, hey, let's go for pizza. Like those small things matter. Huge.
Absolutely. And we have that event coming up March 5th. I hope
Yep.
people heard that in the podcast at the Castle Community in
gonna be
downtown Rochester.
amazing. I can't wait.
Free event, right? That's what's amazing, right?
Yeah. And you'll find not only just connection with what we're talking about, but within that community and the people that are there, which is great.
Absolutely. And the thing that Mark said about his generosity, he's going to be there. He's going to give some books away. But on his website,
Yes.
he kind of told me, he's like, people need to check out my website because there's some free stuff there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of free content, quick, easy
But,
downloads.
like literally free books.
Yes, that too.
You know, I'm like, really? That's very generous, Mark. So thank you so much.
Love that. So you can head to upliftingdads.com to check that out. Tons of great things on there, not just the books, but so much that you can really glean from and grab quickly.
Exactly. And thanks for your authenticity.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thank you.